Your insulin is not supposed to be loud. It is supposed to whisper, and your cells are supposed to listen. But when insulin resistance begins, your body turns that whisper into a scream, while your cells keep pretending they cannot hear it. Let's break down what happens when your insulin stops listening. First, the normal signal. Every time you eat, especially when that meal contains carbohydrates, your digestive system breaks part of that food into glucose. Glucose enters your bloodstream, and your pancreas responds by releasing insulin. Think of insulin as the delivery signal for a massive city. Your bloodstream is the road. Glucose is the delivery truck. Your cells are the buildings. Insulin is the message that says, "Open the door, fuel has arrived." In a healthy system, the message is clear. Muscle cells open their doors and pull glucose out of the blood. Liver cells store extra glucose for later. Fat cells can store energy when the supply is higher than your immediate needs. The road clears. Blood sugar comes back down. The city stays organized. That is how the system is designed to work. Second, the first ignored knock. Insulin resistance does not usually begin with blood sugar exploding overnight. It begins quietly, when the doors stop opening as easily. The delivery truck arrives. Insulin knocks. But the cell acts like the message is weak. So your pancreas does the obvious thing. It sends more insulin. This is the part most people miss. In the early stage, your blood sugar can still look normal because your pancreas is working overtime behind the scenes. The road looks clear, but only because the signal system is screaming. You may feel fine. You may pass a basic glance in the mirror. But metabolically, the city is becoming harder to manage. Your body is compensating. Third, the muscle problem. Your muscles are supposed to be one of the biggest glucose storage sites in your body. They are like enormous warehouses on the edge of the city. After a meal, insulin tells those warehouses to open their loading docks and take glucose off the road. But when muscle cells become insulin resistant, the loading docks get jammed. Glucose stays in the bloodstream longer. The pancreas sees the traffic building and releases even more insulin to force the doors open. This is why inactivity matters so much. A muscle that rarely contracts is like a warehouse that never practices unloading trucks. It becomes slower, less responsive, and less hungry for fuel. But when you move, especially when you use large muscles, the system changes. Contracting muscle can pull glucose in through pathways that do not depend completely on insulin. It is like opening a side entrance when the front gate is stuck. That is why movement is not just burning calories. It is restoring communication. Fourth, the liver problem. Now we move to the liver, the city central fuel depot. The liver has a powerful job. When you have not eaten for a while, it releases glucose to keep your brain and body supplied. That is normal. You need that. But insulin also tells the liver when to slow down. After a meal, when glucose is already entering the blood, insulin should tell the liver, stop adding more fuel to the road. When the liver becomes insulin resistant, that signal gets weaker. The liver may continue releasing glucose even when the bloodstream already has enough. Imagine delivery trucks entering from restaurants, while the central depot keeps sending out more trucks at the same time. The road gets crowded from both directions. Your pancreas sees the rising traffic and pushes out more insulin again. More signal. Less listening. Fifth, the belly fat problem. Belly fat is not just stored energy sitting quietly under your shirt. The deeper fat around your organs, called visceral fat, behaves more like an active chemical neighborhood. When too much of it builds up, it can release signals that interfere with insulin sensitivity and metabolic control. Think of visceral fat as a noisy district in the city. It sends confusing messages into the bloodstream. It can release fatty acids and inflammatory signals that make the insulin message harder for other tissues to hear. The pancreas is trying to coordinate the whole city, but one neighborhood keeps jamming the radio. This does not mean every person with belly fat has diabetes. It does not mean body size tells the whole story. But it does mean waist-centered fat is biologically different from simple storage. It sits close to the liver. It talks to the bloodstream. And over time, that conversation can become metabolically expensive. Sixth, the silent phase. Here is the dangerous part. Insulin resistance can be quiet for years. You may not feel a dramatic symptom. You may not feel your cells ignoring insulin. You may not feel your pancreas working harder. That silence is why testing matters. Prediabetes and insulin resistance are often found through blood tests, not through intuition. Fasting glucose, A1C, and oral glucose tolerance testing are ways clinicians look at how your body is handling sugar over time. Your body can hide the struggle until the backup system starts to fail. The city looks normal because the emergency crew is still working. But emergency crews get tired. Seventh, the pancreas pressure. Your pancreas contains beta cells that produce insulin. At first, when your cells stop listening, these beta cells compensate. They increase the signal. More insulin. Stronger knock. Louder message. For a while, that can work. But if resistance continues, the demand can become too high. The beta cells may not keep up forever. When insulin output can no longer overcome resistance, blood glucose starts rising more consistently. That is when the hidden problem becomes visible on a lab test. This is the transition people often misunderstand. Type 2 diabetes is not usually a sudden failure of one switch. It is a long-pressure campaign. The cells listen less. The pancreas shouts more. The road stays clear until it does not. Then the traffic shows up. Eighth, the myth. Many people think insulin is the enemy because insulin helps store energy. That sounds logical. But biologically, it is incomplete. Insulin is not the villain. Insulin is a survival signal. Without it, glucose cannot be managed properly. The real problem is not that insulin exists. The problem is when your tissues require too much insulin to do a job that should take much less. That is the difference between a calm city and a city where every delivery requires an alarm siren. So the goal is not to fear insulin. The goal is to make the body responsive again. Ninth, the control points. The strongest general levers are not mysterious. Movement helps muscles take up glucose and improves insulin sensitivity. Reducing excess visceral fat, when present, can reduce pressure on the system. A diet pattern that supports steady glucose control, enough protein, fiber-rich whole foods, and fewer highly refined sugar spikes can make the delivery traffic easier to manage. In the diabetes prevention program, intensive lifestyle changes in high-risk adults reduced the development of type 2 diabetes more than placebo during the study period. That does not mean lifestyle is magic. It means the signal system is adjustable. Your body is not frozen. But here is the safety line. If you already have diabetes, take insulin, use blood sugar medication, take blood pressure medication, are pregnant, have a history of eating disorders, or have symptoms like extreme thirst, frequent urination, unexplained weight loss, fainting, chest pain, or blurry vision, do not self-experiment. Work with a qualified medical professional. This is physiology, not a personal prescription. The final image. When insulin stops listening, your body does not collapse immediately. It adapts. It raises the volume. It pushes the pancreas harder. It asks the muscles, liver, and fat cells to respond to a message they keep ignoring. For a while, the road stays clear. But the cost is hidden pressure. The power is that this system can often be influenced before it becomes a crisis. Every walk, every muscle contraction, every reduction in constant glucose traffic, every step toward less visceral fat is not just a health tip. It is a message to the city. Open the doors again. Your metabolism is not broken because it is weak. It is overwhelmed because the signal has been distorted. And once you understand the signal, you stop guessing. You start listening before your body has to scream.